happy Valentine's Day. We are live from my messy kitchen. I'm Hannah Delaney and this is a Work of Fictions vlog. I'm a full-time author, but in my free time I like to read a range of fiction, including work of indie authors as well as traditionally published and classics. This week I'm going to be talking you through Bloodlines by Emily Hurricane, Tiny Worlds by J. Curtis and Red Dragon by Thomas Harris. So we'll start with Red Dragon because that was the first book of the last 2 weeks that I've read. So Red Dragon was an immediate follow-on from reading Silence of the Lambs, and if you saw my last video you'll see that I really enjoyed Silence of the Lambs, and a few people on Substack told me that it was worth looking at Red Dragon. I mean, the film was good with Ralph Fiennes, but I thought, oh, I'll read the book as well. I couldn't get it in the library or Waterstones, so I just got it on Kindle, so I don't have it here to show you, but absolutely gripping. It's another one that's about 60 chapters long, but it doesn't feel like 60 chapters because some of them are much shorter than others. I've fallen in love with the way Thomas Harris does this. He does this thing where some chapters he basically hovers over the characters, and in present tense he describes what's happening, what they're thinking, what they're going through, and then he zooms out again and he lets the characters tell the story. And he writes in first person past tense, but I love these little zoom in present tense. I just thought they were really clever, and I love the way they set the scene because it does hop from FBI agents to the killer, to the people investigating. You know, there'll be different points of view, different perspectives, but I really love the way he does that present tense kind of his what's happening. It's almost like he's hovering over with the camera, and he obviously did that in Red Dragon as well as the other one, Silence of the Lambs. So Red Dragon, if you are not familiar with it, it's regarded as the prequel to Silence of the Lambs, and it's the first time we see Dr. Hannibal Lecter. And we don't see much of him, but I really enjoy the way Thomas Harris doesn't have to tell you much. What little you find out about Hannibal Lecter is enough. So we see slightly less of Hannibal Lecter in this one than we do in Silence of the Lambs, but it's effective enough. And Hannibal Lecter's relationship with the killer and the killer's need for validation from Hannibal Lecter, because Lecter is someone who he looks up to, is fantastic, actually. So the legendary thriller that created Dr. Hannibal Lecter. So Will Graham was a brilliant profiler of criminals for the FBI, until he suffered terrible injuries in the process of capturing Dr. Hannibal the Cannibal Lecter. Years later, a serial killer nicknamed the Tooth Fairy is massacring entire families every full moon. With the FBI desperate for progress, Will reluctantly agrees to continue, but he comes along and does a consultation, even though he's taken time off. He doesn't want to do that anymore, but he's come back because of the Tooth Fairy slaughtering families. So he comes back, he's reluctant, he wants to crack the case, he needs the help of the only mind better than his own, because he's really good at understanding psychopaths and serial killers. He knows how they think, but there's only one mind better than his at that, and that is Dr. Hannibal Lecter. So Hannibal is playing his own twisted game, obviously, because he's the baddie. And Will isn't alone getting advice from the cannibal. Yeah, see where this is going? So is the Tooth Fairy, the man haunted by visions of the Red Dragon. I thought this book was fantastic, and no, nothing made me cry like it did in Silence of the Lambs, but it was fantastic. It starts off, you know, it's really harrowing, really dark. Entire families are murdered by this Tooth Fairy. And he's called the Tooth Fairy, not because he leaves a tooth, but because he bites. Yeah. So we have the Tooth Fairy, the mysterious Tooth Fairy, what's he up to? And Will Graham getting involved. It's got all the things you'd expect when you're chasing a psychopath. They are interested in how the world sees them. They want to create a reputation for themselves. They want to be known as the worst, the most notorious. And what I loved about this is how we got to know the killer. Obviously, with Thomas Harris novels, I'm very much of the opinion that to avoid producing more psychopaths, just be kind to children. That seems to be the silver bullet there. Just be kind to kids, feed them, treat them nicely, treat them like people, and they won't grow up to be psychopaths. That's certainly what Thomas Harris is teaching us. And getting to know the Tooth Fairy gives you mixed feelings, because Harris humanises him. He's not a monster. I mean, he is some of the time, and not all of the time. There's a person under there too, and as you learn more about him, you feel so conflicted. He does horrible things, but in the same way, is he a victim too? It really had you feeling a lot of sympathy for the killer. Yeah. And that, that just goes to show that life isn't black and white. Nothing is absolute. There's nuance, there's grey areas, and no one is 2D. Everything is multidimensional. People are multifaceted. The characters in this are multifaceted, and you found yourself thinking, oh God, what's happening is awful. I hope he can change his ways. But at the end of the day, he's a psychopath, he's a serial killer, and he fears the Red Dragon. We all fear the Red Dragon. The Red Dragon will do terrible things. So yeah, definitely read it. It's fantastic. I couldn't put it down. And I'm glad I've read those too. As well as that, I was reading Bloodlines by Emily Hurricane. Now this is a series of volumes, so it seemed like a massive read at first, so I had to take a little break from it every now and then, because it's a series of shorter volumes. But I read series 1 to 5 together, because you can get those on Kindle. You can get all 5 together. So Bloodlines, I'll talk you through the plot first. So Daphne Rhodes would tell anyone being the one sucks. At least she would if there was anyone left to tell. She's the only one who'd survived, the one with the magic immune system that saved her, the only one left on this whole miserable planet. Daphne spends her days alone, craving answers to why it had to be her. Why did she have to watch everyone she'd ever know die? On her mother's deathbed, Daphne learns long-hidden family secrets that send her on a quest across Canada to not only discover where she came from, why she survived, and who she is, but what she is as well. This is the collected volume, so volumes 1 to 5 that I read. And I used to do this thing in bookshops. I used to go to a bookshop with my sister, and what we do is we just open a book, not read the synopsis, literally just read the first page. And if that hooked you, we'd take it home. Buy that book. Don't look any further into it, just buy that book. And this is very much what I did with Bloodlines. I just opened it, had a look, and I thought, yeah, I'll read that. And I'm glad I did, because I didn't know what to expect, and sometimes that's great with a book. You don't have any preconceptions. You just get into it because you want to learn what it's about, what happens. Let the story tell you what happens. So with this one, it started off, and it has to be that way because of all the character development and the fact that Daphne is on her own. It has to be that way, that it starts off quite slow. So I did leave a review. So this one started off really slow for me, but that's the way it has to be. Daphne is only just learning about herself, and if that's what's going on, we don't need to rush. Daphne's learning about herself. It builds slowly, letting the reader learn as Daphne learns, so you're just working it out as she is. you know, on her mother's deathbed, she's like, oh, I never told you, by the way. And it's one of the strongest character developments I have read, especially for the size of the text. So say there's Jane Eyre, we have the whole process from Jane Eyre being a kid to Jane Eyre being a woman at the end, and we have all the things in between, everything she goes through, the character development. Well, in this, with Daphne, that was all in much shorter a time frame, but it absolutely worked. It's a story of becoming and a story about transformation. It's about the desire to fit in and then realising you don't fit in. And some people maybe aren't meant to follow, some people are meant to lead. And I enjoyed that about it. So the story starts with Daphne, who's a florist in her late 20s. There's been some kind of mysterious disease. This is in modern day Canada. And it seems everybody's dying of it. Even Daphne's mum and dad are dying of it. And she has to look after everybody on their deathbeds. And the story starts with her dying mother revealing a secret. Daphne is left facing the uncomfortable realisation that she could well be the last woman on Earth. Can you imagine? And she's left there thinking, oh, I'm the only woman on Earth. I've got this strange pendant that my mum's given me out the drawer. And she decides, well, I'll go and investigate then. I'll go and find out what all this means. I'll go and see if I can find the answers. She doesn't know exactly where to go. She wanders around, breaks her leg a couple of times, you know, tries stunts, works out how it's all gonna pan out, which direction to go. And absolute madness entails, including really fascinating lore, relationship dynamics, hierarchies, and politics. It's political drama that will tear friendships apart, and you are very much on Daphne's side. You know, you've been with her since the start. You want everything to work out nicely for Daphne. The best bit for me was her development. You know, she doesn't know what she wants. She wants to be wanted. She wants to belong. She wants answers, but is scared to know the truth. I was scared with Daphne. I thought, well, you know, I hope this little adventure pays off. I hope it's not going to be something awful. And this is having watched most of The Walking Dead and just thought I can't watch anymore because it's so dire. So I really wanted it to work out nicely for Daphne. I didn't know how it was going to work out, but I wanted it to. And you swept along as things get really gritty in the middle. And just as you find yourself as hurt and confused as Daphne is with some of it. And things go horribly wrong. Why wouldn't they go wrong? That's a good story. You know, nothing goes to plan in a good story. So things go horribly wrong. The ending was incredibly satisfying. Actually, I was pleased with the ending. And I found myself happy for her that she'd found her place in the world. Finally. But yeah, you know, a lot happens, and it's really good character development, and I would recommend these books. So that is Bloodlines volumes 1 to 5 by Emily Hurricane. It's post-apocalyptic fantasy in a way, I think. So yeah, just try it. It's good. It's good. I also had a chance to read Tiny Worlds by J. Curtis. So that is a small collection of short fiction, and it was an experience. I'll just, you know, that is all I can say really. It was an experience, Tiny Worlds, and just a lovely exercise of artistic range with some really good stories in there. And it was only a short book as well, so I don't actually have much to say other than I enjoyed reading Tiny Worlds. So I am cheating a little bit with me one book a week because some of the books are actually quite short, but who's checking? Who's checking? They are mostly novels though. And straight away, it was because someone mentioned on Substack that they were going to write an essay about Pet Sematary, the the book and the film, and I thought, now would be a good time to read it. So I got Pet Sematary for Christmas, and I've started it already. So I started this 2 days ago, and I'm about a third of the way through. I can't put it down. It's too weird. It's too weird, and I'm reading it and I'm thinking, what's gonna happen? King doesn't explicitly tell you anything. This is all your imagination. This is the kind of writing I love. It's all your imagination, and you're reading it and you think, oh, it's gonna all go wrong, but I don't know how. And put it this way, I passed the neighbour's cat on the way home before, and I was like, oh, hello, Genghis, I'll just give you a little stroke, and hoping that was that. And then I wondered how old Genghis is. So it's a very good book, and I'm hearing all kinds of great things about it. People are saying, oh, it's the scariest book he's ever written. But yeah, I've read The Shining, and I've read Dr. Sleep, so I'm looking forward to finding out what happens here. But I'll share the blurb with you now. So it's an iconic chiller, apparently, from the #1 bestseller. Sometimes dead is better. The house looks right, feels right to Dr. Louis Creed, rambling, old and uncomfortable, a place where the family can settle, the children grow and play and explore. The rolling hills and meadows of Maine seem a world away from the fume-choked dangers of the city. It's only those big trucks on the road outside which growl out unnerving threats. Behind the house there's a carefully cleared path up into the woods to a place where generations of local children have walked in processions with the solemn innocence of the young, taking with them their dear departed pets for burial. A sad place maybe, but safe. Surely a safe place. Not a place to seep into your dreams, to wake you, sweating with fear and foreboding. Yeah. There's a few characters I've met so far that I'm trying to work out. And I'm like, are you weird? Are you weird? Is there something wrong with you? So I'm looking forward to catching up with the rest of this. I might have read it by Monday at this rate, because it's, yes, I'm on chapter 26. I must also say about chapters, both for Silence of the Lambs, Red Dragon, and this one, the chapters are as long as they need to be. And I love that. It's like one chapter could be 2 pages, the next one could be 7 pages. It's just as long as it needs to be. And I can't put it down because I don't know what's going to happen. I love that. And that's why I read all of Bloodlines, because I had no idea what that was doing. And same with Red Dragon. I'd seen the film, but again, couldn't really remember it. So that was good to find out what happens in that story, because I genuinely couldn't remember. But yeah, I felt so sorry for the serial killer in Red Dragon, and that is not me romanticizing serial killers. Obviously that was the point. Oh, it was awful. But yeah, if you want to reduce the amount of psychopaths that are out there, just be nice to people. That's all for this week. I'm gonna get on with Pet Sematary, and I will update you on how that went, and also what I'm going to read next after that. Oh, actually, I do know what I'm going to read next. I downloaded The Bingo Killer by Travis Knight. The Bingo Killer by Travis Knight. I'll talk you through that one when I read it. And that's all for this week. So if you do want to come and have book chat, talk about books, share what you're reading. Please like and subscribe this video, and I will catch up with you soon.